What's up, everyone? Welcome back to After the Storm. Today, I'm doing something a little different. I've done some NHL 22 content here on the channel. Specifically the Back to the Draft What If series has been on the channel so far. I'm recording this out long before it actually will end up on the channel, just because I'm experimenting a little bit. I haven't got into a ton of stuff with franchise mode on NHL 22. I did a little bit with 21 here on the channel. But ultimately, what I want to do here is do something like a hybrid model of playing and simulating, because that's kind of my favorite mix of the two. I don't like just doing total simulation. I don't like doing total playing. So what I want to do here is do like a hybrid, like one game played for simulated kind of thing. I think I might have done that with I think it might have been the Pittsburgh series we tried to do, The Last Dance. Before I had the technical issues that kind of negated it. What we're trying to do here is, if you've seen the title of the video, you've seen the thumbnails, all that stuff, we're bringing back the Atlanta Thrashers. We're going to have them come into the league via an expansion team. Honestly, I thought after Seattle came in this year that the NHL would probably be done with trying to go to more expansion teams, but it really, if you look at some reporting around the league, looks like they might go upwards of 36 teams. Over the next 10 years or so. So Atlanta was obviously a market that failed pretty mightily, but it was more due to ownership, not due to lack of fan support, though they did have problems getting people in the buildings. But really here, what ended up happening overall was an ownership group that just didn't really have an interest and didn't really know what they were doing. So obviously new owners, the ownership group that owned the Atlanta Thrashers was obviously bought out by True North Sports, and moved to Winnipeg and became the Winnipeg Jets. So this is a brand new franchise with owners that are investing time and money into the team. Heading back to, we're gonna use Phillips Arena as well, the old arena that the Thrashers used to play in. Gonna share it with, of course, the Atlanta Hawks of the NBA, but also the Atlanta Gladiators of the ECHL as well. You'll see that the center ice line is the reason why I throw that Atlanta Gladiators thing in there, but ultimately, the Atlanta Gladiators, also of the ECHL, have paid some nice homage. And we can go ahead and look at their jerseys here. Just taking a look at this. They've paid nice homage to the Thrashers. Given that they're going to be back here, it's pretty cool to see. So the Gladiators here have, of course, their home jersey. They've got their regular away, but of course with on the arm there, the Gladiators going down it. And then their alternate jersey is obviously using that kind of powder blue and yellow scheme that the Thrashers used in their jersey sets for a few years there. But anyways, guys, we won't wait around any longer. Let's go ahead and get the Atlanta Thrashers back into the NHL, of course, with a different look, a different logo. Of course, I wish I could have used the old logo in this game, but unfortunately you just can't. Also, I should note, if you're wondering what rosters are being used for this, I'm using Tactics' rosters. You can find them here on YouTube. He's got some pretty good rosters of the known content creators out there that are doing trying to do accurate, realistic rosters around the league. I think he has the best ones. Just not a ton of changes. He's added in some prospects, of course, like Jake Sanderson, Owen Power, big names from the NHL, or sorry, not the NHL, the US leagues and the Russian leagues that are, of course, missing in the game. But yeah, we're using Tactics as rosters. We're, of course, gonna go with the custom roster builds. We're not gonna do default ones, and yeah, we're going to kick it off with the expansion draft here in just a moment. So also, I wanted to bring this up here, the division realignment of adding in the Thrashers. I had originally thought about adding them into the Metropolitan Division just based on the old team maps that you can find on Google or anywhere like that. But ultimately, I thought they fit a little bit better into the Atlantic Division than they did the Metropolitan Division. Of course, Atlanta and Washington faced each other all the time, Atlanta, Carolina as well, but really Florida and Tampa Bay and Atlanta were kind of synonymous as a group of teams that were the southern teams for a while. So I think I'm going to put them into the Atlantic Division. It just makes a little bit more sense. You can see the logo here is quite a bit different. Color schemes are kind of the same, and of course we also are going to come in, as opposed to the way Seattle and Vegas came into the league, we're going to come in with a third jersey as well that pays homage to one of the home jerseys from years and years and years ago. So as with starting any expansion draft, adding the contract year keeps all the contracts current. We're not going to play with Fog of War on. I'm going to just do it a different way because I love the Fog of War idea, but after a while you just know who is good and who's not, and it doesn't really work in favor of the user or against the AI either in the game. It's a really weird, strange thing where the AI just tries to fleece you with trades all the time. So Fog of War will be off, but in a different way. Auto odor mode will probably be on, but we'll do it a different way as well. And of course, we're adding the expansion draft exemption of the Seattle Kraken, because of course they're just coming into the league as well. They don't need to have a player lost from their squad. So there you can see the Atlanta squad, or the Atlanta new logo, the new Thrasher logo. Of course, if you, to give me the option of using that old logo, I would have used that 100 times out of 100. We're just using the stock Burnaby Aces AHL squad as well. I'm not going to care too much about the AHL team, or we're not going to pay attention too much to the AHL team other than just throwing players into it. So we're not going to probably play any games or do anything like that with the team down there. So we're just going to leave that as is. All right, so we're here in the main menu of the hub here, just before we get to the expansion draft, just before we get to the draft lottery as well, which we'll have a part of. Taking a look at the draft class here, that's going to be an important part. I think usually you end up in the top 5 pretty consistently. Dear God, there's a guy named Ashton McMuffin who is a franchise player. So hopefully we get the first overall pick, because that'd be great. But yeah, of course, with doing the expansion draft, all these players are 100% like AI generated. So one of the issues you'll see a lot of here is like not a whole lot of centers in the draft. As you can see, I think we're through the first 20 players and there's only 2. So one of the issues with the game here a little bit, Peter Reynolds, geez. He looks like sort of good, but I can't say that for certain. But he might be actually pretty decent as a late round pick if we can move a player or two. So we're going to do the expansion draft based on current day rosters, or current day standings rather. Today is December 11th, 2021. So I'm going to load up a standings of the league standings. We're going to go from worst to first and draft based on that. All right, so I've got a list of the draft lottery here and also the current day standings. And I'm taking a look at this, and are we not in this anywhere? Am I wrong? Shouldn't we be in this? 17 teams. Ottawa, Arizona, 2 picks. LA, San Jose. I'm not seeing our team at all. I have no idea what's going on here. But we'll just roll with it. I'm very confused. Usually you are in there. Like, what is going on here? Projected picks. It says we have the 4th or 5th pick. 4th pick in the first round, 3rd picks in every other round. I'm very confused because we did not appear on that list by the looks of it. And we are the Atlanta Thrashers. So, alright. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I just read that wrong. But nevertheless, we're going to get into the expansion draft here first. And Arizona is the first team up. They are the worst team in the NHL currently. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the Arizona Coyotes. So taking a look here at Arizona's protection list, or I guess exposure list. I should phrase that properly here, but not a whole lot of great stuff here. That's one of the issues with the Arizona Coyotes at this point in time. Not a whole lot of good players sitting around on their team to grab. If you look at, again, usually when you don't see a whole lot of great top-end talent, you can find some lower-end prospects that they've left uncovered in the game, but realistically here, not a whole lot to pick from. Like, the choice here of Vili Saarijarvi would usually be good, but he's 24. He's only a 74. He's really not going to develop. I also probably want to avoid taking on any cap because Arizona really just absorbed a bunch of cap space this season. And also take a look at their goalies, Carter Hutton and Joseph Coronar. So there's not a whole lot of great anything to take from the Arizona Coyotes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Travis Boyd. Seems like a solid depth center option. Let's take a look at his stats here. 75 faceoffs is okay. He's got some speed. He can shoot and he can pass. He's a very average hockey player. But again, a depth option for our team. I think a 4th line center role is kind of perfect for Travis Boyd. 78 overall. Not horrible at all. 1 year left at $750,000 league minimum. I think that's probably a solid way to start. Moving on now to the Montreal Canadiens. A little bit more to pick from here. Obviously want to be a little bit careful with who we do take. A lot of salary here. Hoffman stands out immediately. I love Mike Hoffman. I love his shooting. For my money, the best shot in hockey is Mike Hoffman. There's lots of stuff to go around here. Brett Kulak is a nice defensive option, good skater, not a great puck mover, but more of a defensive defenseman than he is anything else. Take a look here. It says he fits into defensive pairing 1 and penalty killing lines, so that is an option here. It looks like Hoffman doesn't have a great fit with him either, or with the coach here. Lehkonen on the final year of that deal. Armia looks like he fits line 1. I do like Joel Armia, but his contract is a little steep and a little bit long, as opposed to somebody like Brett Kulak is on a 1-year deal at 1.85. I was interested to look at like Cale Clegg here, who just came over to the Montreal Canadiens just recently. He looks like he's got a little bit of potential and can move up. Sami Niku, not really. I don't think he's going to move much at all. But that really does it for all their skaters. Take a look at goaltenders. Jake Allen exposed. Always would be a good idea to take Jake Allen here, but I don't think that's who I'm going to go with at this point. In the interest of keeping the salaries a little bit lower, I'm going to take Brett Kulak. Get a defenseman in. We now have a center and a defenseman. There's going to be lots of goaltenders around the league that are available. Specifically, I'm looking at Dallas as one team that should have at least one goaltender that is available. Brett Kulak is the pick from the Montreal Canadiens. All right, moving on to the 30th placed NHL team, the Ottawa Senators, having a terrible year, kind of to be expected. But ultimately, a team that has a lot of kind of good pieces, but I don't think any of them are going to be available to us here. This is a lot of, not great pieces here from the Ottawa Senators. I don't really feel like helping bail them out of any cap situations by taking somebody like Matt Murray off their hands. Zach Sanford's only here for 1 extra season. Nick Paul is kind of the obvious choice here at the moment. 26 years old, another center option. A little bit better as a center option as well, but can also play the wing. I like him as a nice depth option. I don't want Zaitsev. Don't want Del Zotto. Aberg is always like heavily overrated a little bit in this game. His skating is pretty good. I think the pick here is Nick Paul. Taking a look around the rest of the team, I think it is Nick Paul, as another center option for us, and who will play probably some solid minutes in our bottom 6. Can also kill penalties. It looks like, he looks like he fits on all penalty killing lines, which is exactly what I'd be looking to bring him in for. So Nick Paul is the pick from the Ottawa Senators. On to the New York Islanders. The Islanders having a they're struggling. They're having a rough season right now. It doesn't look like things are gonna turn around for them this season. Just it looks like a team that has a system that kind of gets read after a while. It's a very defensive kind of 1-3-1 trap type system. And after a while, the effectiveness of that system really goes away once teams figure you out. Off the start here, 2 players really do jump out. Scott Mayfield as the defenseman. We've got Brett Kulak on the team already. I'm not saying that would be our top pair. And it doesn't look like Mayfield fits great. Palmieri is the other one that jumps out a little bit here. Kiefer Bellows is another one. Forward and fits penalty killing lines. Not a whole lot of stuff to pick from here. I'm going to throw that out here from the New York Islanders. So, bit of a tough pick here to make, I'd say. The one I'm thinking of is Palmieri. He is unfortunately 30 years old, signed till he's 34, 35. For that reason, I'm probably going to go with Scott Mayfield here just to have a safer pick, somebody who's got 2 years left after this season at 1.45. Pretty good contract for Scott Mayfield and a guy who should probably end up playing on the third pairing defense. All right, on to the Buffalo Sabres. After trading Jack Eichel, obviously not the season they wanted, but they did start off pretty well, but obviously it goes away pretty quick when you're just playing on a bit of a PDO bender. So, again, another team that doesn't have a lot on their squad to pick from. Their goaltenders, Tokarski, Subban now here. I'm not going to take Craig Anderson, of course. So this becomes a bit of an issue of who to actually take off their squad. Looks like Gergensons does fit. All power play lines, forward line 1. Will Butcher might be the pick here just because it looks like he fits in a lot more space on this squad. You see he's got top 4 defensive pairings. He's got power play and penalty killing lines. So he might be the pick here from the Buffalo Sabres as to become the 3rd defenseman so far selected. A good contract, got 1 year left before he can renegotiate, and it looks like he just fits a lot better than any other player I can take from the Buffalo Sabres. On to the Chicago Blackhawks. A few options here. One being Brandon Hagel, who's got 3 years left at 1.5. That's a pretty good contract for him. Eric Gustafson is an offensive D-man. I do like Jake McCabe quite a bit. Looks like he might be our pick just based on our coaching scheme. Looks like he meshes well in the room. I like Jake McCabe a lot, so this might end up being another defenseman pick here. It looks like that's just too much money for Tyler Johnson at this point. Calvin DeHaan a little bit older, plus he is expiring. Caleb Jones, all penalty killing lines. Doesn't mean he has a great fit. Khrushchev down here is also one, but it looks like he's just I don't like the Khrushchev pick as much. I'm thinking it's going to be Jake McCabe. We'll take a look at their goaltenders, though. Lankinen here as well. Let's go ahead and go with Jake McCabe, a solid left shot defenseman here off the Chicago Blackhawks, who looks like he can play up and down the defensive lineup and in all situations, which is awesome. On to the Philadelphia Flyers. Not having a great season. Taking a look around what they've got, though. Oscar Lindblom exposed. McEwen, as it just drops right off a cliff here. Don't want Martin Jones. Not going to touch Felix Sandstrom. So I think the pick here is probably Lindblom, top 6. He could really get an opportunity to shine here. He's got a couple years left at 2.9. I think that's better. I was looking pretty hard at Keith Yandel, but I think we've got a lot of defense already. And I honestly will say, Keith Yandel on penalty killing unit, no thanks. He would definitely be on the power play units for us. So Lindblom is the guy I'm going to go with. He can kill penalties. He can be in the top 6 for this team. Yeah, I like Lindblom here. I think that's a great pick. On to the Vancouver Canucks. And again, a lot of contract issues when you're taking a look at this squad. Makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out who to pick. This might be the first goaltender pick that we go with of any team so far. Take a look here. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of great stuff up and down this lineup. Pearson would be a good pick, but he's just got a lot of money and a guy who's... I'm not going to bring in a guy who's going to just be used in one role. So this might be Mike DiPietro on this one. I think he's got a lot of room to grow. We would have the money just to get him a new contract, get him long and extended. He could potentially be our backup this season at a 77, but I would probably try to get him down to the minor league team. But I think a 22-year-old goaltender with medium starter potential, he could probably grow into like an 82 or an 83 if properly developed. So I think we're going to go with Michael DiPietro and pick our first goalie. On to the New Jersey Devils, and one player stands out immediately. That'll be Igor Sharangovich. Unfortunately, he doesn't fit in very well to our squad. Subban's on 1 year at $9 million, and it looks like he would be a pretty solid fit. Again, we've got $65.5 million of cap space at the current moment, so this might be one where we take Subban and hopefully he drops his price down on as he renegotiates the contract, just in order for us to, have a nice veteran presence, a guy who's really going to, culture-wise, surround the team with some positive vibes, and he's got a really far-reaching media presence. Taking a look at the goaltender, the only goaltender available is Jonathan Bernier, and $4 million for 2 more years after this one. I should just say 2 years because of the out of contract, but yeah, I'm not really a big fan of Bernier here. I think Subban's the pick to go. Can play up and down the lineup, power play, penalty kill, wherever we need him. He might be a great fit on that first pairing with Will Butcher. Just taking a look at it, it looks like those two guys could mesh out pretty well together. Again, he's not a guy who upsets the room in any way. And yeah, I like in expiring. $9 million, but expiring. Looks like he could, at 32 years of age, I know he's jumped around a lot of teams in the past few years, but it looks like PK could find a home here in Atlanta. On to the LA Kings, a team that is stocked with prospects. So many prospects on this team. Yeah, there's a lot to look at here. Dustin Brown, of course, too much money. Alex Edler, probably a little too much money. And only going to play PK. Athanasiu, forward line 2. Doesn't have a horrible contract. Trevor Moore, not really scouted. Carl Grundstrom, does not fit at all. Now, Blake Lizotte is typically the guy I go for, and I know it doesn't look like he fits very well, but I might just use him as a bottom player in this lineup. Oh, Elias Anderson here, huh? Now, he is scouted for the AHL, so I have no idea what he'd be at the NHL level, and also at a 76 overall, probably not going to be in the NHL. So that's a prospect depth. Take a look at their goalies. Yeah, Jonathan Quick. I don't really want to deal with that contract. I think the way to go is Blake Lizotte. He's very close in age to Anderson. He's just a little bit better, and he could probably play on our team right away, and he's one of my favorite players around the league. So just reviewing so far who we've picked. Oscar Lindblom, a left winger from the Philadelphia Flyers. Blake Lizotte from the LA Kings. Nick Paul from the Ottawa Senators. Travis Boyd from the Arizona Coyotes. Will Butcher from the Buffalo Sabres, Jake McKay from Chicago, Brett Kulak from the Montreal Canadiens, PK Subban from the New Jersey Devils, and Scott Mayfield from the New York Islanders. So far we've got a pretty solid defensive depth, but we do need to focus on drafting some more forwards. So as we get into the next section of teams here, probably look to draft a few more forwards. So right away we have a lot of forward options to pick from here in Columbus. Taking a look at goalies, though, just Berube is the one that gets exposed here. So, taking a look around, I think the obvious pick here is Jack Roslovic. Yeah, it's between him and Stenlund. And Stenlund, who's very good at, he's a very good skater, but just doesn't get rated too highly in the games. And for Roslovic, he's on a very small contract and can be extended fairly easily. So I think the pick here is Jack Roslovic. We'll draft our first right winger of so far. Make sure. That changes it up. Gotta make sure I don't draft players like that. Penalty killing lines. This becomes very difficult when you get this kind of stuff happening. Forward line 2. So maybe Stenlund. Maybe Stenlund's the way to go here. Fits into forward or for all the penalty killing lines. Right-handed shot. I think we're going to go with Kevin Stenlund here unfortunately, over Jack Roslovic. There's also the potential that we can start moving around players. That's another thing I can do. So I think what I'm going to do here, just based on value and contract and the ability to move the player afterwards if I don't find a fit, Jack Roslovic, we're going to take him from Columbus, and he potentially could just be traded back to Columbus as if there was a worked out deal to keep Jack Roslovic. And I could probably get Stenlund or Robinson here, or another player that wasn't exposed in the draft here from the Columbus Blue Jackets. All right, so we're on to the Dallas Stars, and now this is the first pick, I should say, where we actually have a bit of a conundrum in what to do, because Tactics' rosters have been edited in such a way that there's a goaltender who's a prospect who's now a medium elite, so he is a very prime candidate to take. However, John Klingberg is sitting here, and I wonder if John Klingberg, moving him back to Dallas for the specific goalie, is the way to go here. We do have a lot of defensive depth, and I've taken a look here at John Klingberg. He doesn't fit very well into our coaching scheme. He's only sitting around as a penalty-killing player. So I'm wondering if I should take John Klingberg and ship him out for Jake Ottinger, or if I should take Jake Ottinger just straight up and deal with it and make sure I don't end up not being able to get Jake Ottinger, because it looks like he's going to take off like wildfire, and he also has an X factor. This is a tough one. So I think we're going to go on the safe side. We're going to play this safe. We're not going to try and do the trade. Let's get Jake Ottinger. He's a medium elite potential, 22 years old. Has to be re-signed after this season, but we can negotiate that from July 1st with him. So, and plus he's got an X factor. So let's go ahead and draft Jake Ottinger. We'll take our second goaltender from the Dallas Stars. On to the Boston Bruins. They are struggling pretty mightily this season. They got a lot of defensive depth, but a lot of contracts. Jake DeBrusk would be an easy take here, but unfortunately he just doesn't fit. Derek Forbor, I don't want to really give be spending money on Derek Forbort, to be honest with you. Forsback at Carlson always sims well in the AHL, so he'd be AHL depth, but again, that's a bit of a waste of a pick. And the Bruins don't really have anybody in goaltending to take, so this might be a case of another team where we take player, probably move them back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take Brandon Carlo. Has a little bit of potential left, so his trade value should be decent. And likely I'll probably acquire somebody like, let's see, who was I looking at down here? Forsback at Carlson's probably the guy I pick in a trade, and then maybe we'll look at Jack Studnicka as well. Looks like he has a lot of potential, so we'll look at acquiring Studnicka and potentially Forsback at Carlson for some AHL depth in a trade for Brandon Carlo. Onto the Detroit Red Wings, and not a whole lot to pick from here, really. Hirose is always a player I like, and giving him an option in the NHL is always something I kind of enjoy doing. So he stands out just because there's not a whole lot here. Greiss, of course, I'm not going to pick Thomas Greiss as a goaltender for this team, especially given he's $3.6 million. We do have lots and lots of cap space left. There might have to be some changes here made at the end due to the way everything gets drafted, but we are focusing on forwards here. It's pretty easy for me to take Jordan Osterley. He's a defenseman I like. I don't think I'm going to take him here. I'm going to go with Hirose, who will be another depth option lower in the lineup, but has the option of playing some pretty good minutes for us in the bottom six. On to the San Jose Sharks, and this is usually a team that always like dangles Vlasic or Burns out. Somehow they've avoided that this time. And it's pretty easy to take one of those two guys. Maybe not Vlasic anymore, but Burns is usually a guy I'll take an expansion draft and trade back. This time around, I've got a player right here in Rudolph Balcers that I like a lot. Hopefully he fits. Damn it, always they don't fit. I do want to draft players that fit pretty well into the team. I don't want to grab too many players that don't. So here might be the better option as opposed to taking Balcers. Let's go ahead and grab Joachim Blichfeld, a prospect, top 6 low potential, 3 years to go though before he stops really developing. So maybe in the AHL, him playing top line minutes might be pretty good in order for him to just develop into an NHLer. Onto the Vegas Golden Knights, and of course the team that was exempt from the Seattle draft won't be exempt from this one. This is a team, they got some, like Riley Smith is a good player to look at here. Looks like he just fits into penalty killing though. That might be a bit of an issue. Nick Hague doesn't fit anywhere apparently. Brayden McNabb, again, there's not a whole lot here. I don't know if there'll be much in the way of goaltending either. Laurent Brossoit, I think is paid a little bit too much for what I'd like to see from him, but he could be an option just to have a solid backup with Jake Ottinger. Zach Whitecloud. That extension is so weird to me. And I'm not sure if that's an extension I want to deal with. He's a 78 overall. He does fit in all of our defensive pairings. Again, but let's take a look at... We've got 6 defense drafted already. Carlo is the one who is going out. So, if this is a tough one. If Whitecloud is going to fit, and he's going to fit that nicely, I think this is another one where we try a trade. I think it's Nick Hague. He's better than Whitecloud is, but also Riley Smith would just have more value, I think. So let's take a look and see. I think we're going to take Riley Smith here, and then we're going to try to work out a trade to get Whitecloud and something else. Maybe a pick, maybe another player from the Vegas Golden Knights. Onto the Winnipeg Jets, and again, a lot of defensive options here to pick from. Vesalainen, of course, a prospect, would most likely be down in the minors, but also doesn't fit. So let's take a look. Nothing else really here. It's very the allure of Neil Pionk is pretty big for me here. Problem is there's just so little on the offensive side. I do like Jansen Harkins a lot, so he might be an option here. But also, given that Pionk doesn't fit really other than outside of our penalty killing lines, Pionk could be another player that we pick up, try and trade. As long as we're not I think, again, we've got 6D on the roster currently. I think it might be best to grab Pionk here with one of our extra slots on D and potentially move him back to Winnipeg in exchange for somebody like Harkins or somebody like Harkins and Stanley, something like that, where we actually pull in a couple extra players from a team. Goaltender's Eric Comrie. Yeah, I'm not jumping at the bit to get Eric Comrie. So we're going to take Pionk here, and then we're going to try and flip him back to Winnipeg afterwards. On to the Pittsburgh Penguins. There's certainly some options around here. One guy I like a lot is Brock McGinn. Does fit into our top 6 forward lines, and I would absolutely play him there too. Evan Rodriguez isn't scouted very well on those top ones. Again, taking Carter or Zucker with those contracts, although Carter's is pretty fine. For just having penalty killing, not a great option there. Brian Boyle, of course, not a great option. I do like myself some Chad Ruedel in my life. For some reason, he always plays well in these video games. Doesn't fit into our team, though. Aston Reese, not great. Yeah, that looks like it's pretty much it for what we could get. Of course, there also is the option of a goaltender here. Casey DeSmith. I think the smart way to go is to go McGinn. I know he's got a lot more money on the books, but he's got 4 years left, and he can play on the first line, and or in the top 6, I should say. And again, his personality assessment, just an all-around good person in the locker room, tends to keep to himself. Again, I'm a Carolina fan. You guys can see all the jerseys and stuff behind me if you're watching this video. I love Brock McGinn. St. Louis Blues. Now, Robert Thomas stands out immediately as a solid player, but again, doesn't fit into our system. Neither does Sod. So this gets a little bit more interesting as we go down. Sundqvist, not really interested in him. Klim Kostin, not a fit. Logan Brown would be an option there. Philly Husso stands out pretty early here for me. A solid backup option, I think. I don't really like any of the options here, which is unfortunate because I do like Tyler Bozak, but I'm not sure how well he'd fit. Scandella, not a great fit. Sundqvist, I just don't have any interest in Oscar Sundqvist for that money. Neal, forward line 2. He's only a 78 though. So again, this is another one where I think what we're going to do is we're going to take Robert Thomas because he's got lots of potential left and he's got likely a lot of trade value. So we're going to take Robert Thomas and we're going to work out a trade with St. Louis. Again, I know we're getting into a lot of flipping here, but I think it's useful for our squad because we can just become a lot better and we can make sure that a lot more players fit into our team and are therefore better. Because if we can stretch that chemistry in this game out, you can make some average players into very good players very quick. So Robert Thomas is going to be the pick from St. Louis. Likely what we're going to try and target is we might take on James Neal because it looks like he fits up into the top 6 a little bit, forward line 2. And probably what we'll do is take Billy Husso as well, maybe along with a pick or something like Klim Kostin or Logan Brown as well, if we can work out that trade. Hopefully, fingers crossed, but what our pick here is going to be is Robert Thomas, and we'll move him back to St. Louis afterwards. The Edmonton Oilers. Now, they've left Evan Bouchard available here. He's looking like the best option so far. Ryan McLeod has some potential as well. I don't know if I'd have an accurate scouting report on him. Koskinen, I don't really have any interest in at 4.5. To me, at least, I'm not sure at this point in time, but I'm okay with the 2 goalies we've drafted and then probably taking up like Billy Husso in another trade or signing a goaltender like Tuukka Rask is available technically. So there are options here. Evan Bouchard looks like the simple slam dunk play on this one. Of course, I don't want Cece's contract. Clefbaum is pretty solid, though, and his contract isn't crazy. 27 years old. I do like the pick of Clefbaum here, but I am wondering if I can get something by taking Bouchard, but I might just take Clefbaum here, considering it looks like he will slot in very, very well for our squad. Colorado Avalanche. Now, of course, right off the hop, there's 3 or 4 players here that are very solid, Sam Girard being one of them. And again, we still have a nice defense slot open for our draft. As you guys can't really see, I'm covering it up. Let's move myself over. We're at 8 of 9 there, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. In fact, I'm going to keep myself up in the top right corner now. of this one, just for the remainder of the expansion draft portion. Gerard is the pick, I think. All penalty killing lines, even though he doesn't potentially fit great, I think it's a worthwhile pick. He's got lots of time left on this deal. He's a fantastic offensive defenseman. He's got an X factor. I think it's a pretty obvious slam dunk pick to take him. Francouz, again, like not a great. If it was Kemper, maybe I'd have to reconsider. Really no prospects available outside of Shane Bowers for the Colorado Avalanche. So steal from what they have a lot of, an abundance, is offensive D-man. We get a player that's got 6 years remaining at $5 million, a very manageable contract, and a guy who could be very, very good for our defensive squad. On to the Nashville Predators. Again, another player here who looks like a bit of a slam dunk. He's already got an extension put in on his contract. So depending on what it looks like, yeah, top 4 defensive pairings. We still have the option here of changing up some picks depending on who we look at. I'm not sure, but Ekholm looks like a really good pick here. Goaltending, no. David Rittich, no. Cody Glass is a prospect here that's available. I don't think anything else is going to stand out as much as Matthias Ekholm will. So I think our pick is Ekholm. We're now over the 9 recommended slots of the defense drafting, but we can make a change there if we need to anywhere along the way and try to grab another player. Onto the Anaheim Ducks, and again, another team that's got a lot of defensive options. So we're running into this kind of late into this drafting process. Sam Steele I would really like, but unfortunately just not any value towards him. Jacob Silverberg's contract is a little bit steep. Adam Enriques as well. Sonny Milano might be the pick here. 82 overall, pretty solid right now. Don't have a lot of interest in Max Jones. Goulet, probably not going to grow much. And Anthony Stolar. So what we're going to do is I think we're going to take Sonny Milano here. He'll be another drafted winger for our team. Again, it is very easy to look at Manson or even Shattenkirk as options here, or even Josh Mahura. But ultimately, we're pretty full on defense, and we don't want to push our luck too much. And for Milano, forward line 1 and penalty killing, pretty solid for him for a 2-way forward. Lots of speed. Can definitely play some top minutes for this team. Calgary Flames, lots of options here. Shillington always stands out. Penalty killing lines only, though. Blake Coleman just signed that ridiculous, nearly $5 million contract. Don't really want to test with that. Mikhail Backlund. Now, Dan Vladar is probably the guy I'm going to go with here. Just because Tanev is a solid pick. Shillington's the other one I'd really like. Don't really want to touch these guys' contracts. And then it really does drop off quite a bit here. I think Pitlick's the only other one I'd even look at. Glenn Gaudin, I do like. And Phillips, I do like. But, of course, their AHL depth, I don't know why I would really go after them at all for that. So I'm going to go with Dan Vladar. He becomes the backup to Jake Ottinger. Michael DiPietro does officially go down, and that opens up our ability to take a different player when we move Robert Thomas back to the St. Louis Blues. We have the option of just grabbing another defenseman or grabbing just some forward prospects or different forward players, or even trading Robert Thomas to somebody else. Who cares at this point, right? That's what that opens up for us and what we're going to be looking at when we try and move Robert Thomas, but we have a solid backup in Dan Vladar now. On to my favorite team, the Carolina Hurricanes. Lots of options here. Nino Niederreiter, of course, expiring at the end of the first season, though. Not going to really touch Gardner or Bear. Again, too much offense at this point, I would think. Ethan Bear, top 4 defensive pairings, all power play lines, and penalty kill line 2. So I think this will be the first time. I'm going to go ahead and take a look really quickly at our defensive options, who we've got so far, because I think I might want to swap out a different player as a result of wanting to grab Ethan Bear from Carolina. A good contract that does have to be extended, but again, we still have a pretty solid amount of cap space at this time. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of our defense and who we can maybe swap out. So the change I made was here with the Islanders. I took out Scott Mayfield. I think Mayfield was actually let's take a double check on this one. Yeah, Scott Mayfield just fit into the penalty killing lines. His contract was pretty good, but we're going to swap him out for Kiefer Bellows. And I think, again, we haven't drafted many centers. We certainly don't have a top center at this point on the team. We've got lots of wingers, lots of very good wingers as well. So that is something we're going to be targeting pretty heavily as we go into the off season here. We're going to be targeting centers most likely, but taking off Scott Mayfield, we're putting on Kiefer Bellows. Hopefully, I think I like Kiefer a lot, so and he fits a little bit better into our team than Scott Mayfield did. So we do swap out one defenseman. We're going to take Ethan Bear from Carolina as well, and that kind of will even up our defensive stuff. So Ethan Bear, let's go ahead and grab him. So on to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now there's good thing Jason Spezza doesn't fit anywhere. I love Jason Spezza, but also he is very steadfast in the fact that he is not going to play for anybody but the Toronto Maple Leafs, so I would not have taken him anyways. Jake Muzzin, always appealing here, but I'm not going to bother with him. Simmons, I'm not going to bother with. Sandin is the one that does stand out. Now he does fit defensive line 1. Liljegren also standing out here. Mrazek stands out at goaltending, but I think for me, I'm good with the goaltending right now. So I think this is another area where we do have to take a look at our defense again. Now, I'm not sure if we've drafted 12 forwards, so I don't know if the defense is an issue. So let's go ahead and just select Sandin for now. That's going to be our pick from Toronto. And what we're going to do is if it's an issue, we'll come back and make an adjustment. But I'm not sure if it will be an issue because we have drafted 12 forwards already. On to the Washington Capitals. Taking a look here. Eller, as always, is a guy that stands out as a pretty solid option here. Again, we're going to go with a forward, I think. Vanacek here, that's a goaltending option is okay. Could be an option where I make another trade here. Lars Eller, though, I did mention we gotta be targeting centers, and he would probably be a solid center on this team. Weighing it. I think let's go ahead and take Lars Eller. All right, the back-to-back Cup champions. Let's see who they exposed. Again, Sergachev is the big one here. All defensive pairings, all power play lines. That's huge. Mikhail Sergachev would be very good for our squad. Again, this is another one. I don't like a whole lot of what else is here. So Chernak is solid, but again, doesn't fit as well as Sergachev does. Yeah, there's not a whole lot here to pick from. There's not really any goalies. So right now, I'm going to grab Sergachev. And it doesn't look like there's an issue yet, but we'll see once we get towards the end here. But we've only got a few teams left to do. So hopefully we don't run into any issues or run into some players where we really do need to take them. But let's keep moving along here. The Minnesota Wild here, again, Kakinen might be the pick here. Now, I know that'll be... Yeah, Nick Bjugstad not able to fit him. Kalen Addison, lots of potential on Kalen Addison. That's probably what I like about that one. It's going to be Kakinen. And if we need to, we might trade Kakinen back to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Kalen Addison. But we'll see where we are. 4 goalies, definitely one going to the minors, and Michael DiPietro. Running 3 goaltenders is a pretty solid option with running Kakinen, Ottinger, and Vladar. New York Rangers are second in the NHL. This is nuts. I didn't know these guys were having such a good season. So taking a look, Sammy Blais is an option here. Forward line 1. Yeah, not a whole lot. Maybe Libor Hayek. But again, drafting a defenseman, probably going to run ourselves into a few issues. But again, he's got 2 years left where he can really get a lot better. But also, Sammy Blais is probably a very safe pick for this team. So I think we'll go with Sammy Blais just to make sure. And as we approach our final pick, the Florida Panthers, it doesn't look like we're having any issues with the way we've drafted. We've taken 12 defense. There'll be a lot of guys moving. I know we've got Roslovic as well, who's going to move. But yeah, there's lots of trades to make coming up to the draft here. Again, not a whole lot here in Florida, surprisingly. They did very well to protect their list. Yeah, Chris Gibson, that's not a very good one. Again, it's easy to take Olli Juolevi here. Frank Vetrano is an option. I don't have any interest in Patrick Hornquist because of that contract. don't have any interest in Joe Thornton because he just signed there, so that's kind of rude. It's kind of rude to take a guy who just signed. I do like Mason Marchment a lot. Does he fit anywhere? Forward line 3. So you know what? Whatever. I'll take Mason Marchment. Honestly, that's the only pick I think that's like a total throwaway in this one, and I think Marchment can probably end up in the lineup somewhere. That evens up our forwards. We'll have 5 left wings, 5 centers, 5 right wingers, 12 defense, and 4 goalies. So we have finished the expansion draft. I'm going to move myself back down to the corner for you guys so you guys can see everybody here, other than, of course, Neil Pionk will be cut off, but let's go through every team here. Sonny Milano, the first one from the Anaheim Ducks, should slot in pretty well. Travis Boyd, a depth center option. Brandon Carlo will be traded back to the Boston Bruins. Will Butcher comes in. He should be a solid addition on the left side. Dan Vladar will be our backup. Ethan Bear looks like a power play anchor for like quarterback for our squad, so I really like that addition. Jake McCabe, of course, really good. Sam Girard, good. Jack Roslovic will be traded back for something else from Columbus. Jake Ottinger is our starter. Taro Hirose. So I mentioned, I think, with Florida's pick that maybe Marchman was the only throwaway. Hirose is the other one who maybe gets some time in the lineup. I hope so, because usually he will grow a little bit. He's 23 or 24, so he probably will grow a little bit, and that's what we definitely want to see. Oscar Klefbom, a solid left side defender. Mason Marchment, again, he will probably play depth minutes, but he's very effective physically and can probably play some penalty kill. Blake Lizotte, I just really like the player. He should be able to play on our team. Capo Kakinen, again, are going to be our third goalie, potentially a trade. We'll see what happens. Maybe there's a lot of interest around the league for him. Brett Kulak is a decent defender around the league. I think he just fits in really well. That's why we picked him. He was one of the earliest picks. Matthias Ekholm, solid defender. Again, another blow to Nashville in that regard. PK Subban is another guy who should just fit in. He has a lot of great fit with our coach. He's going to probably fit in very well, I think, here in Atlanta. Somebody who's probably wearing a letter on their jersey this season. Kiefer Bellows was swapped out at one point in place of Scott Mayfield, but again, another young center option that can be used. Sammy Blais, pretty good. I like his game. He's a bit of a grinding type player. He should be pretty good. Not sure how much or where he'll really fit in. Nick Paul, a solid depth center option, just like Travis Boyd. Oscar Lindblom should play in the top 6. He'll be pretty good. Brock McGinn, I'm going to play him in the probably on the first line, so he should be very good. Jochen Blickfeld is AHL depth and a prospect that could grow a little bit. Robert Thomas is going to get traded back to the St. Louis Blues for something we're not sure yet, or maybe somewhere else. Mikhail Sergachev should be a top defender on our team. Rasmus Sandin, again, he's got lots of room to grow. Might end up in the AHL. We're not exactly sure yet. Michael DiPietro, AHL goaltending, should grow pretty well. Riley Smith will get traded back to the Vegas Golden Knights for, I think we're looking at White Cloud and others. Lars Eller is probably our number 1 center option at this point. And Neil Pionk, who is taken from the Winnipeg Jets, will end up going back to Winnipeg in a trade. So far, that's what we've got for our team. I've recorded this pretty long so far. Ultimately, it's probably going to be a very long video. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get ourselves through the draft, take a player, see what they're like, of course. And ultimately, what we're going to end up doing is probably just getting ourselves to July 1st. And that's where we'll kind of leave off with this episode. We'll come back with the full free agency period. There won't be much going on. And then we'll come back with our first games in the next episode of our franchise. So as you can see here, we do have the 4th overall pick. For whatever reason, it just didn't show up in that list. Buffalo gets bumped out of their spot. Seattle gets way bumped out of their spot where they took Beniers. But yeah, let's go ahead and start simulating. McMuffin goes to LA. Of course, what does LA need more of? Freaking prospects. And now they get a franchise one. Muzzin goes to Anaheim. Norton, another defender for the Buffalo Sabres. Take a look here. Looks like the better player is Calle Olofsson. Loyalty is a concern. Milan Lucic, though, is this guy a grinder? Power forward. So he's got a crease crasher zone ability. Looks like a quick pick is always good. So Calle Olofsson, we're going to take him. Likely we won't sign him this season. We're probably going to let him have another season to develop. So yeah, it very much drops off after this pick here. So Calle Olofsson will be the first pick of the new era of the Atlanta Thrashers as they come back into the league. Calle Olofsson is 77 overall, medium elite. That's a very good pick for us to start off our career with. We won't have much scouting done on the rest of this, so this might just be like an auto draft. This guy looks like he's pretty good. Jay Bowmeister, but 4 years away. Jeez. All right, Woodworth, top 6, 63. All right, so we're going to just go ahead. Actually, what we should do right now is we're going to try and make some trades and get some of these guys out. So I'll come back once a trade has been completed. All right, so the first trade we made was Jack Roslovic going back to Columbus for Emil Bemstrom. So Bemstrom, a very similar type player to, let's go find him down here. There he is. A similar type player, 22 years old. He's going to get the season most likely to develop down in our AHL team. Just, again, swapping a guy out who definitely wants to be in Columbus, and this would have been basically a side deal. Basically exposing Bemstrom, or taking Roslovic, but getting Bemstrom as a result of a trade. Just a side deal that has worked out. So they get a bit of a prospect here, and they get to keep Roslovic. So as we take a look here, the second trade that we made was the one we talked about. Brandon Carlo goes to back to the Boston Bruins. Again, another side deal that was worked out for Jack Studnicka, who's a prospect who's going to get time to develop in the AHL, and Jacob Forsback at Carlson. Now, this guy always seems to sim well and score very well at the AHL level, so he's really been brought in for that. But hopefully what we can do is guys like Bemstrom and Studnicka, and maybe some others that we acquire here along the way, will actually end up next to Forsback at Carlson, and he can help them just grow a little bit down in the minors. All right, so the third trade we've made, Riley Smith going back to the Vegas Golden Knights. I think Riley Smith would become the first player to be selected twice in both expansion drafts, but I might be wrong on that with the ones from the 90s and stuff. But yes, we acquire Zach Whitecloud, who's got that crazy 6-year extension, but fits very nicely on our team. Brett Howden will again go down to the AHL squad and play there. And then a 2022, so next year, a third-round draft pick that belongs to the New York Rangers. So again, we acquire a pick. We basically make another side deal where we get a pick, a defender, and Brett Howden for taking one of the top players from Vegas and just shipping him back. So I like that trade again on a lot of levels for our squad. All right, so we're on our fourth trade already. Pionk goes back to Winnipeg. We got actually a pretty good package for him. Let's go take a look at it. Pionk back to Winnipeg for Chaz Lucius, Ville Heinola, 2 prospects. The 2 others there, Jansen Harkins, who is a depth player for our NHL, like our forward squad, and just a 5th-round pick in next year's draft. Coming back, so a pretty sizable return. Chaz Lucius was just a player picked from Winnipeg, or by Winnipeg in this recent draft. Ville Heinola, again, nice defensive prospect, kind of on the cusp of hitting the NHL, but again, he'll be down in the AHL this season to get lots of seasoning there. Harkins may be on the NHL squad, might be in the AHL, and then acquiring an extra pick for next year's draft. All right, so our final trade comes with the St. Louis Blues sending Robert Thomas back there. We acquired Logan Brown, who's, again, a fringe player at this point. Definitely going to be down in the AHL, playing for our minor league team. Ville Husso, again, he'll also get into the AHL, and he'll kind of split time down there with Michael DiPietro to form a pretty solid goaltending duo down for our AHL squad. And a 4th-round pick in next year's draft that belongs to the Ottawa Senators. Again, Ottawa should be pretty bad, so that might be basically a 3rd-round pick. And St. Louis did that thing where they always celebrate, the trade, the GM, when they talk back to you. But ultimately for Robert Thomas, this is a pretty good haul. It's important for us to get those mid-round picks next year, just supplementing and getting our prospect system built up a little bit better. But yeah, pretty good here. We got everybody moved we needed to. And that was a pretty important aspect of our draft. All right, so we've simmed out the rest. Here's all the picks from our draft. Of course, our first 7 picks. We didn't acquire any additional picks in this draft, so this is what it is. I wasn't going to sit around and try and pick these players. I think we picked Olofsson and we picked Woodworth, but otherwise pretty difficult to actually select these players based with no scouting done on them. So just let the AI pick those and we'll simulate through, and up to July 1st, that's where we'll cap off this first episode. So coming to the contract screen, we only have one player, Jacob Forsbacka-Karlsson, who's expiring. So there's $850,000. Hopefully he'll just sign that. Easy decision to renew his contract. So Jacob Forsbacka-Karlsson, the only player who was expiring on this one. We have $24.85 million of cap space. Not a whole lot of cap actually used. If we take a look just by overalls, you guys can see this is a defensive squad. They are very well built. Man, this left side right here, again, we're probably gonna have lefties playing on the right side. This is a top 6 right here. That's pretty crazy. Go down here. Bear is also here. Kulak will be an extra most likely. Sandin, again, as I mentioned, probably down in the minors. There's some other guys as we go through the offseason that we might have the option of moving around. It looks like Will Butcher. Again, it's going to depend on fits. We're not going to know until the beginning of the season. It's always good to have extra guys too on the team at all times to be able to come in and out of the lineup. But we're probably going to have to move a defenseman at least before we start the season. It might be Will Butcher, but of course, always depends on fits and where players, who meshes the best with each other on the squad. So likely, just based on what we see here, we're going to have some left-handed defensemen on the right side playing their offside, but this is a very, very good team. On forward, we're not great, though. I think we have some top-end guys. Like Eller, I think will be pretty good. Lindblom can probably grow. And Milano, I think I'm expecting a pretty good season from Sonny Milano here. Taking a look. Nothing to display with the coaching. So, as I recall, he was a pretty solid fit on the team. So I'm expecting some pretty good stuff from him this season. Guys like Bemstrom, guys like Logan Brown, Brett Howden, Stanika, Blickfeld, and Forsbacka-Karlsson, and Lucius as well. They're going to be down in the minors. I'm excited for those guys to be down in the minors because I think they're going to have the opportunity to really grow pretty well down there in the first season. And in goal, Husso and DiPietro will be down in the AHL. We're going to run 3 goaltenders. All 82s, we have so much to pick from. Kakinen, Vladar, Ottinger. We can basically rotate 3 goalies throughout the season and be pretty set. Again, what we're probably going to be aiming to do as July 1st hits and we have the option to extend some people. I think, of course, Ottinger will be getting an extension. Not sure about Kakinen, but he's also a restricted free agent here, as you guys can see. So it'll be we can see how he does over the year before we commit to anything. And of course, DiPietro, I think we should sign to a couple extra seasons just to get him extended. Subban, getting him extended to a lower cap hit is probably very important. Sonny Milano is an RFA. Hopefully he doesn't want too much money. But then you get down here, Bear, Kulak. Kulak might be a guy we don't even really bother with. Paul and Blay. And then Sandin, getting him extended is pretty big as well. Butcher, we're not going to worry about. Lizotte, I like a lot. So there's lots of stuff we're going to get done in the next episode. And that'll be more or less just contract extensions. I don't think we're going to be very active in free agency, but one of the issues is we have $24.8 million. We're probably going to have to acquire, and this might work into our favor in getting a few extra draft picks around the team. We're likely going to have to try to acquire some bad contracts just to get ourselves to the cap floor. So it'll be an interesting episode number 2 of this series. I'm looking forward to getting into it. But that'll be very, very soon after this one. But yeah, this team looks pretty good. I'm excited to go ahead and play the first game. Usually you're on the road in the first one, and then we'll play at home. So those 2 games we'll do full playthroughs of. Have a lot of fun doing those ones. And yeah, that'll be episode number 3 for sure. Anyways, guys, we're up to July 1st, so that's going to do it for episode number 1 of the series. Thank you so much for joining me on the journey through the expansion draft, the draft, and the re-sign phase here so far. We'll be back with episode number 2 soon, and yeah, we'll work on some contract extensions, and we'll get ourselves ready for the season. Episode number 3, we'll play some games and really kick off our first year back in the league. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching the video today. Hit that like button down below if you did like the video. Hit the subscribe button if you want more content like this around the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can get the video as soon as it uploads. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.